right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. I'm Dustin Guinee. This is Open Minds, Open Hearts, and you have just arrived at our session 11, Nurturing Our Fear and Anxiety to Find Inner Peace. We could not need this more right now. This is recorded on the day after the election in the US. I know everyone's anxiety and fear is running high right now. I know mine is, despite all the meditation and mindfulness, but that's why we're here today, right? To kind of come back and ground ourselves. So more to come on that in a minute. If you missed the last session, session 10, flowing with the river of life, had some really great moments and meditations in that series. So definitely check YouTube, Open Minds, Open Hearts, or OMO, OMOH. You can find me on YouTube. So really exciting stuff there. Also, this is a free session, free to all. If you'd like to donate, I leave that info in my emails or on YouTube, which is always appreciated via Venmo or PayPal. Also, I love seeing so many new faces here today. Very exciting. If you have any other friends or family that you think could use some meditation and mindfulness, I'm sure you can think of at least one. Have them email me, Dustin at openmindsopenhearts.org. Get at me on the socials, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'd love to connect and have folks a part of this. I started these sessions back at the beginning of June, and it's been a journey since. And, we started in June, and there was a lot going on in the world with everything, with COVID and racial upheaval. And here we are still dealing with those same issues and the election. And so there's a lot, and we all need some more meditation, mindfulness. So I'm glad you came to the right place. So let me go ahead and share a few thoughts around today's theme. Just gonna fire up this presentation. Okay, so yeah, nurturing our fear and anxiety to find inner peace. I don't think I need to tell anyone on this call, we're all Americans on this call. We all know what's happening in the world right now. There's an election, there's a lot of fear and anxiety in the air, whether it's at a national level, an international level. There's a lot going on in the world, or a very personal inside level, right? All those things are connected. And with today's session, I'm going to introduce what's called a RAIN meditation. That's an acronym for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And I think this is a very powerful tool to address stress and anxiety in our lives, to ultimately cultivate inner peace. I think where I may differ from other meditation teachers is I'm not a big fan of kind of like the fluffy, let's all sing kumbaya and everything's fine and dandy. That's not this kind of meditation class. This is where we really do the deep work. Like, this is where we get real with ourselves and real with hard emotions and difficult circumstances. And we use these tools of meditation and mindfulness to process those difficulties in our lives. And I know, practicing myself for many years, and also working with you in this community, that these practices are so effective in addressing anxiety, stress, major mental illnesses in our society. So just excited to continue going down this journey with you. So what we usually do is we set an intention, and then we have some inspired readings. I'll talk a little bit about mindfulness, and some kind of what is anxiety, what is rain meditation. And then I will lead you through a 20-minute guided meditation. And then we'll have some conversation at the end. So, setting an intention. So, as far as setting an intention, for those folks that may be new to this, intentions are based in principles and values, as opposed to goals and performance outcomes. So really, what we're doing is kind of reaching in deep, connecting our head and our heart, and checking in with ourselves and seeing what do we want to get out of this session today? What do we want to get out of the rest of our day? What do we want to get out of the rest of our week, the rest of our month? So this practice of intention setting can be really powerful when combined with action. So some examples could be, my intention is to recognize and become aware of the fear and anxiety I'm experiencing. My intention is to find my inner peace, even when the things outside of me are chaotic. My intention is to practice nurturing self-compassion for myself during difficult times. So just take a minute to reflect on what your intention is for today's session, for addressing fear, anxiety, stress, cultivating more inner peace and self-compassion. And whatever intention comes to you first is usually the right answer. So let's go with that. Okay. So some inspired words. So Steve Maraboli says, you must learn to let go, release the stress. You were never in control anyway. And I love that. When we think we have control on a situation, we often don't. There's very few things that we actually have control over. And it's so true. Like when it comes to stress and anxiety, how much of that is related to future thinking and trying to control the future, right? So this process of letting go of expectations and how we think something should be, letting go of this idea that we can control factors, outside of ourselves. It's liberating. So Dan Millman says, you don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you. Again, love that. You don't have to control your thoughts. I don't think anybody can control their thoughts. And I know a common misconception with meditation is that, oh, I'm going to learn how to control my thoughts. I'm going to learn how to stop thinking and find inner peace. No, no, you're not. No, that we just can't do that. The brain is not designed to stop. And, and there's reasons for that. But we can quiet it down. We can stop identifying with all the thoughts. We can stop reacting with every single thought, right? And that's when the thoughts stop controlling us, right? Like it's when the thought becomes a third party in our head where we can say, okay, I'll listen to you. Okay, I'd rather not listen to you right now. You can go over there. Like we can start to edit and direct those thoughts a little bit better. Khalil Gibran says, our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it. Are you noticing a theme around control? Right? There's not a lot we can control. And And, nothing wrong with thinking about the future, planning for the future, but trying to control the future, it's just not going to happen, right? There's too many factors. There's too many outside forces. But what we do have some autonomy over is how we react to those situations, right? How do we react to a difficult situation? Do we overreact? Do we get proactive? Do we proactively kind of go after those green light moments in our lives, or do we feel like everything is a red light? I've been reading Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights book, which I highly recommend. Right, but not every blocker is a showstopper. Sometimes it's just redirecting our energy into a new, exciting chapter of our lives, right? Cool. So a little background on anxiety. I thought we could all kind of do a recap on the science of anxiety. And so I got Anxiety Explained for Teens, or the Young at Heart. I think the science and info in this video is applicable to all ages. So let's learn a little bit more about anxiety.
You know what anxiety feels like. We all do. Everyone experiences anxiety in some way or another. It's something that connects all of us together. Why we feel anxiety and what it really is, that may surprise you. Without anxiety, we'd all be in serious trouble. As soon as your brain senses you're in danger, a little piece of it, called the amygdala, kicks in. It gets your body ready to react. That could mean fight, run away, or shut down. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze response. This reaction goes back millions of years to our distant animal ancestors. Animals whose amygdalae were more sensitive to danger were more likely to stay alive and off the menu. Over millions of generations, this developed into the system we all know as anxiety. So you see, anxiety itself is not all bad. But when there's no immediate life or death threat, and your amygdala keeps telling your body that you're in danger, that's when anxiety becomes a problem. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between getting eaten and public speaking or failing a test. Human society has only existed for a relatively short time. It's messy and complicated and confusing, and our amygdalae just haven't had time to catch up. So sometimes, when we're in uncomfortable situations, our brains misread the risk and overreact. Our hearts beat faster and we breathe heavily, pulling more oxygen into our bodies. The muscles in our arms and legs tense up and fill with blood. Our skin perspires to cool us down. This would all be great if we needed to fight or run, but instead, we just feel tense and sweaty. Sometimes our minds go blank and we feel like we can't move or talk. That would be great if we needed to hide. Instead, we just feel stuck. When things trigger our anxiety, sometimes we try to avoid them, like our ancestors avoiding a predator. But that can cause problems when those triggers are important parts of life, like going to school or meeting new people, things that won't just give up and go away. So how does knowing all this help? Well, it starts with remembering what's really going on. There's nothing physically wrong with you. It's just your amygdala trying to tell you it thinks you're in danger, even if it gets confused about how much danger you're really in. Understanding why we feel anxiety is an important step in learning to manage it.
Cool. So yeah, I hope you guys kind of captured the idea there. Anxiety is actually part of our brain by design, right? Like it's what has allowed humanity to survive as a species. So the activity in that amygdala, that fight, flight, or freeze part of the brain, that's all by design, right? It's just in our modern society, like they said, when going to school or going to work, or that talk with your boss or that talk with your spouse becomes a triggering event, particularly over time in a pattern, it can really start to become an issue, right? Or even a disorder. So, and that's where this practice of meditation, mindfulness, particularly this form, which is called mindfulness-based stress reduction. This is a particularly powerful form of meditation and mindfulness practice, started by this guy, Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's really kind of the forefather of connecting the dots between Western medicine and Eastern meditation practices. So he's from University of Massachusetts, where in the 1970s he developed this program. It's an 8-week evidence-based program that offers an intensive mindfulness training, particularly with people with stress, anxiety, depression. So it uses mindfulness techniques, meditation techniques, body awareness, yoga, as well as some explorations around behavior, thinking, feelings. And it's all about kind of moment to moment, non-judgmental awareness, which, it's such a powerful thing, especially, for those that suffer from chronic stress or anxiety, that constant nagging and incessant voice that is often antagonizing us or threatening us, to kind of become mindful and aware of that voice, and then ultimately be able to manage and direct that voice is extremely powerful. So, reducing stress, reducing anxiety, depression have all been seen as benefits. Increasing calm, increasing mindfulness, self-compassion, self-awareness. So there's a lot of great benefits to this particular form of mindfulness, MBSR. Highly recommend John's book, Full Catastrophe Living. You can get it on Amazon. And I've checked that book out, and it is a really insightful kind of Western medicine meets psychology meets Eastern meditation and mindfulness. And I think there's a lot of gems of insights. So kind of, thinking about anxiety, how many of you can relate to this feeling of being on the edge of a cliff and not knowing where you're going? I know for myself, I can relate to this, whether it's the election or COVID or job uncertainties. There's this kind of mass and this fog in the future, and things are so unpredictable right now, and it can feel really scary and it can feel really disorienting. Kind of like this hiker staring into the abyss on the edge of a cliff. And on the flip side of that is kind of a terrifying trek that becomes a transforming adventure. Why these people are not wearing shirts, I do not know. I think they're probably European, but clearly they are having a good time. They climbed a very large cliff. They're clearly not like in the safest location, but they look like they're having the time of their lives, right? Like, and how true is that for our lives too, right? Like we're in a difficult, challenging situation. We feel like we're on the edge of a cliff, and we can either kind of look at the abyss below and be frightened to all heck, or we can be excited and liberated as part of the adventure. So it's all about how we frame the current situation that we're in. And this idea of nurturing ourselves the way that we care for a child or a pet, when you see this beautiful image of a young boy cradling his baby brother, or this young girl cradling her pet kitten, they're just such sweet images, and it evokes nurturing and care. And it's easy for us to do for really sweet things like a little baby or a kitten. But what if we turn that kind of care and nurturing to ourselves? Does that feel okay? Does it feel uncomfortable? Does a little voice come up saying, oh, you're not worthy? Oh, right. Like as adults, we start to put on all these other layers and narratives around why we can't nurture ourselves, right? Oh, I'm not healthy. I'm not good. I'm not good at that thing. So this is an opportunity to start to reframe the way that we nurture ourselves. What if we allowed and nurtured our negative emotions with the same level of care we invest into our positive emotions? Right? Like, so, a lot of times we spend a lot of energy invested in happy, joyful feelings, right? We all want to be happy, power of positive thinking. All that stuff is great, but if we're sweeping our negative emotions under the rug, if we're pretending like they don't exist, if we're ignoring the parts in our lives that we need to work on, they're not going to go away. And actually, they're just going to keep getting worse, right? Like a cancer growing, we can't shove our suffering and negative emotions down, and pretend like they're just not going to come back up. And so this practice of meditation, some of those things do start to come up, and it may be uncomfortable, but they're coming up for a reason. And so as we do our meditation today, I'd like you to keep that in mind, that if some difficult emotions come up, it's okay. The idea is we're bringing the light of non-judgmental awareness to those emotions. And through that practice, we begin to heal. And finally, what if we reframed our suffering from problems into teachers, messengers, and friends, guiding us into a richer life? So there's this old metaphor dating back to the Buddha that talks about our emotions and our feelings as being a visitor inside of our temple, and we invite that visitor down for a cup of tea. So whether it's a good positive emotion or a negative emotion, we invite them in and we have tea with that emotion as if it's an old friend. And we listen to them, and we hear them out. We let them speak their truth. And I love this because it kind of personifies our emotional life in the third party, so that we don't have to identify with that emotion all the time. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm depressed, I am sad, I am blah, blah, blah. But when we start to say I am, we then begin to identify with that emotion, and it becomes a part of our identity, versus saying, I am experiencing sadness, I am experiencing depression. And that's a very different way of approaching those more difficult emotions. So that said, this practice of RAIN, which is recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So this is the meditation I'm going to guide you through today. And so it starts with recognize. We recognize what's going on for us, what thoughts, feelings are coming up for us. Often something that we need to bring some mindful awareness to kind of pops to the surface. And it could be something that's a difficult emotion. And that's where we allow the experience to be just as it is. We allow that thought, that emotion to come to the surface. We don't try to fix it. We don't try to avoid it. We just allow, and we make space. And then we investigate, investigating with a natural curiosity, without judgment. We're not judging the sadness or anxiety, anger, whatever emotions coming up, but rather just explore and also see where it's coming up for us in the body. Is it in our shoulders and neck? Is it coming up in the stomach or in the chest region? just really kind of tuning into that body, mind, heart connection. And then finally, we nurture with self-compassion and non-identify with the suffering. So through the process of nurturing, this is really where we cultivate that self-compassion, you know, the motherly embrace, the cradling of the little kitten, you know, can we do a little bit of that for ourselves? And then ultimately through that process, we begin to no longer identify with that difficult emotion. We experience it, we know it's there, but it's no longer a part of us and it's no longer defining us. And I think that's the key difference is it's no longer defining and suffocating us. So I hope that gives you some food for thought on the RAIN method and kind of managing anxiety and stress. And so now I'd like you to get ready for our meditation. So find a nice, easy seat. I'm going to go ahead and cue up a little music here. We will. Okay. 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 Oh, one moment, actually. All right. Let me cue up the music here. Sorry. Okay. So just find a nice, easy seat as we start to tune in to our bodies. Okay. If you're in a chair, nice straight back, a seat where you can get some nice full breaths is preferable. And we're going to do a RAIN meditation today, which is recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And this is a powerful technique for managing difficult emotions. There's a lot of fear, stress, anxiety, worry that we experience. There's a lot of that energy around us in the air right now. And that's okay. And in this practice of RAIN is bringing some awareness to those difficult emotions with loving kindness and care. So, you know, if you ever feel uncomfortable as we go through the process, come back to your breath. Your breath is your anchor points on this journey of RAIN. The breath is your safe haven, your safe place. So you can always come back to the breath if you ever feel discomfort or dis-ease. But ultimately, through this work, the difficult emotions will come to us because as we still the mind through meditation, what requires our attention begins to come to the surface. And so this isn't a practice of quieting the mind. This is a practice of stilling and calming the mind and then allowing what is weighing on us to reveal itself. Because we either know it's there or as we sit in silence, it starts to make itself present. So let's go ahead and begin by the first step of RAIN, which is to recognize. Recognizing what's coming up for us in this present moment. What emotions or feelings are coming up for you. Perhaps there was an event that triggered some negative emotions in your life, whether it was a personal experience or a national experience, a world event, whatever's been weighing on your mind and heart, let that be recognized in this moment without judgment, just kind of recognizing what's coming up for you right now. And so the second step of RAIN is to allow this emotion or feeling into our presence. So this may seem a little counterintuitive to allow a difficult emotion into our awareness, but we do that without judgment. We do it with a childlike curiosity, and we're just kind of allowing whatever feeling is present for us, whether it's anxiety, fear, distress, just letting it in, almost like an old friend or family member that maybe we've had a challenging relationship with, but they come to our door after a long time away, and we invite them in for tea, and we sit down and we just listen to what they have to say. We don't need to identify with this emotion. We just give it the space to be present with us. And that brings us to the third step of RAIN, which is to investigate. And when we investigate, we're not trying to psychoanalyze this emotion. We're not trying to figure out why it's here or place blame on who inflicted this pain upon us, but rather we're just trying to understand how this suffering is arriving in our bodies. How is this pain showing up? Is it in our shoulders and neck? Are we feeling some tension? You might even put a hand on where you feel the emotion coming up. It could be a shortness of breath in the chest, and you could put a hand or two on the chest and just kind of tune into where that emotion is manifesting in the body. So just start to listen in to what your body is telling you. Really kind of connecting with the body, with any suffering or pain. And just allowing, just being with that feeling. And as we begin to connect with the emotion in our hearts, the thoughts in our heads, and the pain in our body, as we connect these elements, we begin to go in the final step of RAIN, which is to nurture. Bringing a nurturing energy to our emotions and our suffering, the way that a loving mother embraces her child, the way that we embrace a beloved pet or a beloved one. So too do we embrace our suffering. We embrace the totality of this human experience, the darkness and the light. We embrace it all. We love it all. In this moment, we're able to love even what is most difficult, because in this moment, we are not identified with the suffering, but rather we are the watcher behind the suffering. We are the presence and awareness, the light of awareness shining upon our imperfections. And as these difficult emotions are bathed in the light of this loving awareness, they begin to lose their power. The tense shoulders, the upset stomach begins to calm. We just start to let go. Let go of our need to control this emotion. We're letting go. And as we let go, we feel the weight lift from our shoulders. It's okay not to feel okay. We embrace our anxiety, our stress, our fear, and we say, I see you. I see you, fear. I see you, anxiety. And it's okay that you're here. You're a part of me. And I love you anyways. I do not judge you. I love you anyways. And just continue to come back to the breath. Because in the breath, we can always begin again. In every breath, we have an opportunity to restart our lives. We have an opportunity to reframe our relationship with whatever emotion is coming up for us. This deep reservoir of loving awareness, this ocean of light, this is available to us when we remember to connect back with the breath, connect back with ourselves in a loving, nurturing, self-compassionate way. And we're beginning to really heal ourselves. We are becoming the physicians of our own hearts and minds. And we're realizing that we have the capacity to heal ourselves. And we don't need to worry about the future or the past. We just are here in the present moment, cradling our vulnerable self. And as we show nurturing compassion to ourselves, as we soften our hearts open our arms, we begin to become empowered. We begin to become fully integrated beings, connecting mind and heart and body. And in this moment, we are whole. I am complete. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of self-compassion. I have valuable gifts to give to others and to myself. So just being at peace in this moment, cultivating this awareness, this nurturing spirit. And, if you're still kind of struggling with nurturing yourself, that's okay too. This isn't about perfection. This may be really new and maybe uncomfortable. And that's okay. We're learning to get comfortable with our discomfort. We're learning to be more loving to ourselves, which can be difficult at times. So we're all on a path and a journey of self-development and self-unfoldment. And so wherever you are on that journey, you are right where you need to be right now. And the fact that you are here doing this meditation shows me that you are taking steps to be the captain of your vessel. You are empowering yourself to look out for your own spiritual and mental health. And that is a powerful act. So thank you for joining me. I'd like to conclude our session with a poem that I've written. It's largely inspired by the times in which we live, and particularly living in America in 2020. And the poem is called Trembling Hands. American experiment where democracy does not stand. The emperor's clothes are transparent, trying to still my trembling hands. Anxiety and depression, chaos all across the land. Pandemic and recession, trying to still my trembling hands. When our morals start to stray, the flames of hate are fanned. It's okay, not feeling okay, trying to still my trembling hands. Fight the power, pray for peace. Earth burns from the ignorance of man. When will the destruction cease? Steadying my trembling hands. When fiction is sold as fact, your minds they will command. Beware of their attack. steadying my trembling hands. Independently seek the truth. Existence you'll understand. From our elders to our youth, recognize reality is in your hands. The hands of power made thee. Follow the divine plan. The truth will set you free, accepting life with open hands. Be here in the present. Your perception will expand. Mindful of my essence, investigating with my hands. Non-judging and aware in the heart of my homeland. Each moment handled with care, nurturing wounds with my hands. Trembling transforms the strength. Let go of control and demand. Fear evolves into thanks when I love my trembling hands. When I recognize my trembling hands, when I allow my trembling hands and understand my trembling hands, to nurture my trembling hands, my hands tremble no more. They become still like my mind, because if I cannot change something with my heart, head, and hands, then it is not mine to change. So I let it go. And I am free. Namaste.